Hey everybody, it is Mike Young, a digitalnomad.net. Thanks so much for tuning into the channel. I appreciate you as a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber already, please subscribe. And this is a comprehensive video for kind of like people who are not quite familiar with what's been going on with Tesla. There's an interior of an older Tesla, kind of a weird interior. I'm going to explain this in a minute. And with ride sharing in general, and with autonomous driving, full self-driving, autopilot, robo taxi, like all these things, they're all related. All right. And there's a history of this. And I'm recording this video just in early July of 2023. So right now, there are no functioning, fully autonomous level 5. That's the key level, right? Robo taxis or any kind of service that Tesla operates. But Tesla and Elon Musk have been talking about this for years, and that's the subject of this video. I want to kind of give a history of what's going on. Well, if you have ever been in a Tesla, you know that this is basically the kind of the interior, if you forget that there's no steering wheel behind my head, of a Model S or Model X. They're basically the same. And the interior layout has been like this with the portrait screen from, I think, the first year of Model S, which was 2012, to the refresh, which took place, I think, like 2021, 22. They finally released some in 21, 22, and that's what's been out for the last year or two. So, but what they did was basically took the screen here and they turned it around so you can get more information and watch movies and television. It's more compatible with that. Because back in the day, this was like super high tech. 2012, when the Model S came out, super high tech. And if you followed Tesla as a car company, this was the first mass production interior of a car was Model S. Before that, they had the Roadster. And the Roadster was a very limited production car. It was built on a Lotus chassis with Tesla basically taking an existing ICE platform, which was a pretty cool and a good ICE platform. It actually, it was one, it's the Lotus, I think, Elise or something like that. If you know, let me know in the comments. But it was a mid-engine platform. So good weight distribution. They put battery pack and motors in there. I don't know if they still maintain the 50-50 weight distribution, but they showed as proof of concept that it worked. And it had a 0 to 60 time like 4 seconds, I think, which was ridiculous back in the day. In, I think, 2008, 9, 10, 11 timeframe when they produced that car. And by the way, they no longer support it. But it wasn't designed as a clean sheet of paper. It was just designed as a proof of concept. And it worked. It cost $100,000. And like I said, Tesla at some point decided they're not even supporting that car anymore. They're not providing anything for it. It's kind of like it's a relic of the past. You can still find them. They're actually worth a lot of money nowadays if you have one. They're just not real practical to drive around because of limited parts availability, service, all that kind of stuff. So 2012 Model S came out. Looked like this, except there's a steering wheel behind my head. Okay. And sorry, hopefully that'll fit. There we go. There we go. Okay. There was a steering wheel behind my head, and at the time, I think there wasn't even autopilot initially, or there was AP1. I can't remember back in the day. This is over 10 years ago now, 2012, when that was officially launched. So let me know. But the big takeaway from this is that the first autopilot system, which was named AP1, so if you see AP1 rolling around on the internet, you know what we're talking about. And that system is also not being supported anymore. So if you have a car that has AP1 in it, and it could be Tesla Model S or Tesla Model X. S was the sedan, which was a larger sedan, and then X is the SUV. That's actually the one that I drive. It's the larger SUV, the one with the Falcon wing doors. And actually all of them you could have gotten and you can get now are all power control, which is pretty cool. Still, I don't know of any car like that. But either way, they're built on the same platform. They use the same technology. They both started out with AP1. The important thing to remember is that AP1 is no longer supported. They stopped development on that, kind of like the Roadster, because they were trying to grow fast. And they realized, I think that Elon realized the timing was right. It's like, yeah, we don't quite have the technology now. We don't have any of this figured out now, but we're going to go ahead and start it anyway. And if we have to jettison some stuff like that, then we will. And that's what they did. So keep in mind that you may find like a super low price on a used Tesla that has AP1. And AP1 was produced from 2012 all the way to October, mid-October of 2016. And the way that you tell is that you'll see, if you've noticed on Teslas, the newer Teslas, that the area between the front tire on both the passenger and driver's side and the front door on both passenger and driver's side has like a little thing there in the fender. And the newer ones have a camera in it. The older ones are just like chrome with a T on it, no camera. That's how you know it. That's AutoPilot 1. AutoPilot 1 only used forward-facing cameras. I think it had a rear camera as a backup camera, but I don't even know if it was used in the process. I doubt it was. Let me know in the comments if you know that it was. But again, the takeaway here is if you're looking for an autonomous car that will have level 5, according to Tesla and Elon Musk, that will be in the Tesla rideshare robo-taxi service with level 5 full self-driving and the ability to earn money, you're going to have to look at October 2016 or moving forward, anything following mid-October 2016. And like I said, you tell by looking at that area between the front wheel and the front door. And if it's just chrome and a T, AP1. If it's also the same shape but has a camera in there, like I'm looking at it with you right now, a camera, you know what that looks like, camera lens, then it's AP2. Anything that's AP2 is upgradable or will be upgradable according to what Tesla and Elon Musk said in 2016 when they started the production of these cars in October. That's what kind of got me going. I'm like, well, I can have this in my car. I know it doesn't have it now, but I'll watch the development. I'll pay a lower price. They said, if you buy in now, you're going to pay a lower price. And if we need to upgrade you, they said they would upgrade the hardware. You're just an early adopter. You're giving us money to develop these technologies and these systems. So I bought in. It was very inexpensive at the time. Also, another benefit that is not related to this necessarily, although it kind of is the free unlimited supercharging, which is most easily explained as basically buying a car with free gasoline. You stop at any gas station, you get free gasoline. In this case, you stop at any Tesla supercharger, which, as we know now, all the other manufacturers are moving over to the Tesla, was it NACS, I believe, standard, and they're moving away from CSS, which is awesome. Okay, so Tesla has a new standard. There's Tesla superchargers all over the place. It didn't used to be that way. There were hardly any superchargers anywhere, but there are also hardly any Teslas on the road in early 2017 when I took delivery of my car. So it was a good situation. I bought in then, and just this is a side note. After the year 2016, if you ordered or delivered, actually, if you ordered and then delivered in 17, you're okay. If you ordered after the end of 2016, you didn't get the same version. They offered it from time to time, but it was only for the original owner. Mine stays with the car as long as they don't give it back to Tesla and they remove it, which they tend to do that. Okay, so if you're looking for this in a used Tesla, make sure you buy it from a private party. Make sure you verify that when you plug into a supercharger that there's no $sign that comes up on your screen. That's how you know. All right. However, you also need to know that just because it works for the owner that has the car doesn't mean it's going to transfer, because that only happened if you took delivery by, I think it was like March of 2017. I was one of the last ones, and you had to have ordered before the end of 2016. They may have extended it out to 1 week in 2017. I cannot be 100% sure because they were always changing that. That's the way it is. Another thing, if you're considering that because this does relate to the robo-taxi service, is that there was a new thing called the Tesla Fair Use Supercharger Policy that was introduced. I believe it was the end of 2017. If you can correct me, please do that. I don't know if it was in 2017, 2018, but that was any car that was purchased new from that point on was subject to the Tesla Fair Use Supercharger Policy. And that basically said that you cannot have any commercial use, including taxi service, of the vehicles when you're going to superchargers. And they did that as a way to discourage people from getting a Tesla, because it made a lot of sense even back then, even though the car was $100,000 back then, because S's and X's with all the full self-driving were around that price. That's what mine was. That it still made financial sense to open up a taxi business and drive a Tesla and not have to pay for it. So they implemented that. I don't know how they're enforcing that, and I don't know what the future might bring if they're going to change that. But just keep that in mind, because that means that anything going forward can't use the superchargers for the robo-taxi service unless they've changed that, unless you've got an older one like mine. as you can see, it's kind of complicated. Now let's get into some more complicated things. When I took delivery of my car, it came with what was called MCU1. That's like the main control unit, master control unit one, the main computer. Actually, it's this thing that you're going to see right behind me. That in S and X has several versions. It does also in 3 and Y, but most important is that MCU1 has very limited functionality. It was not that fast. It was basically based on a chip that was around in 2011 when they were finalizing the development of Model S for 2012 launch. So as you can tell, by the time, we're in 2023 now, it would be really slow. So apparently, according to Tesla, even if you have AutoPilot 2 and above and purchased the FSD and AutoPilot software packages like I did, that it'll still work with the old MCU1. Apparently, that's what they say anyway. I don't know how well that's going to work, and they may end up having to upgrade you in the future. Also know that there's been some other problems with MCU1 relating to the death of the memory chip on the back board of the computer, which can be fixed apparently, but also there's a recall from this on Tesla where they will somehow fix your memory chip or upgrade you to something where it's not going to cause as many problems as what you had. I don't know. But I paid them. I think it was maybe 3 years ago now, 4 years ago. I paid them to upgrade to MCU2. It was like a $1,500 upgrade. I got new screens. And so I had a little bit of yellowing, and the screen stopped being yellow when they replaced it. But you can also fix that with ultraviolet treatment. I have videos on that too, on how to basically design something that you can hold ultraviolet light on for like an overnight time frame, and it'll get rid of all that gum or glue, which basically turns yellow, and it's basically just a cosmetic thing. You can fix it. I don't think that you guys have that on 3 and Y. Let me know in the comments if you've had problems with yellowing on the screen. But I got a new screen then. I got a faster computer, and everything works great. And I don't even know if you can do the full self-driving visualization on MCU1. If you can, let me know. It may work, but it may not provide all the visualization on the driver's screen, because on S and X, when there is a steering wheel, there's also a driver screen there. Okay, so just note that there's 2 screens if you didn't know on S and X, and there's only one, which is the other way around on 3 and Y. Another thing to note, there's no steering wheel here. I don't know if they designed this part of the dash where I can put this piece in and remove the steering wheel, which would be awesome on older S's and X's, because they knew that this was happening. I know there's been so much FUD, which is fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So many people saying this isn't going to work. So many people say you're wasting your time. Other people say that this is bad for the environment. I mean, there's a whole plethora of negative press, negative loud voices out there. It's crazy. But another point of me making this video is to kind of lay the groundwork to say, like, look, you're taking these older vehicles, they're going to retrofit, they're going to become part of the Tesla fleet. Tesla's already into a record year of production right now, and I think the goal this year for 2023 is going to be about 2 million new Teslas put on the road. That's in addition to the several millions that are already on the road, and that's going to be going forward. It's going to be more and more Teslas on the road, so there'll be more and more cars that can be learning. Another thing you need to know about Teslas is they're all connected to the internet. Now, I'm going to limit the rest of this video to AutoPilot 2 and newer, because you know that AutoPilot 1 was phased out. It's not going to be relative. It's not going to be relevant, actually, in the future anymore. That's why you can get a good deal on those. And same with Roadster, will not be relevant. Neither of those two, they may have some real good value in terms of collector's items, but they're not going to be good for just practical day-to-day use. Now, why? Now, think about this. How much time do you actually spend driving your car? And versus how much time does your car just sit parked somewhere? You don't have to think too long to realize that no matter who you are, even me, most of the time my car is parked somewhere. That's not very efficient use of resources. It takes up a lot of space. And actually, if you know anything about machines, machines are designed to be used, right? They're designed to work. So what's important here is 2 things. Number one is almost everyone knows that their car is parked almost all the time and not being used. It's very inefficient use of resources. It's actually extremely wasteful, if you ask me, okay? Nobody needs something sitting around basically rotting and potentially leaking fluids all over the place, especially if it's an ICE vehicle. Okay, leaking engine fluids, leaking transmission fluids. Of course, there's no gears in a Tesla. There's no engine in a Tesla. There's very, very little to do. So where do I go with this? Basically, what's going to happen in the future is not that many people are going to own vehicles. There won't be any reason to. If you think about the amount of time you actually spend driving a car, if you could just summon one on your app, like open up your Tesla app here on your phone, right? And just say, I need a ride. And it was very, very inexpensive. That's the other thing. It's got to be financial. It got to make financial sense, right? Well, you would do it, of course. Why would you want to have this thing parked everywhere? Why would you want to take care of it? Why would you have to wonder, be concerned that the neighbor's kids might shoot out one of your windows or whatever? Anything could happen. A tree limb could fall on your car. I've seen people say, never park under trees anymore because a limb fell one time. All kinds of things could happen. If you could just forget about all that and you could get very, very, cost-effective transportation, you would end up saving a ridiculous amount of money per year. Or you can go in the business and own these vehicles and they would actually go out and do work for you. So before I move on from this point, let me also mention that there is AutoPilot 3 in newer cars. I can upgrade to AutoPilot 2.5 in mine, which I did by putting MCU 2. I have to get new cameras on certain parts of my vehicle, which all these things Tesla paid for, as long as you buy the fixed price up front, AutoPilot or FSD beta. They're also offered as a monthly service, but I don't know if they will freely upgrade your hardware on that monthly service. Just keep that in mind. All these things are relevant to the discussion here. I know it's complicated. I want to make sure to put them all in there. So in the time since 2016 October, when AutoPilot 2 is released, you've got MCU 2 upgrade. You've got you could upgrade the AutoPilot 2.5 by getting your cameras upgraded and by getting your computer. That's another thing. There's another computer, not just here. This is the computer that controls the car. There's another computer over here behind and on top of this glove box that is your AutoPilot computer. Tesla also paid for me to get a new AutoPilot computer because they said the one that you were given when you bought your car is not capable of doing all the computations fast enough. These things are also pretty cool. They are cooled by the coolant that cools the battery pack as well. They got a whole system for all this stuff. In addition, you got to know this too. I'm sorry, I should have said this earlier. It doesn't make any difference about the order though. All Teslas are constantly connected to the internet. They all have a service where they're taking all this data from their sensors, which is their cameras on the outside of the vehicles. It's all pure vision, just like humans, and they're transmitting it back and forth. That's how you get your software updates back and forth, et cetera, et cetera. Everything's connected. There's all these interconnecting systems that no other auto manufacturer has. Even if an auto manufacturer says they're coming out with something, they don't even have this. And keep in mind, these systems have been available on all Tesla vehicles. Even if you didn't pay for the FSD, you still got the sensor suite and the capability to upgrade since October 2016. That's a long time right now. That's 7 years going on. Okay, it's almost 7 years of them producing as many vehicles as they possibly can, and now they're ramping up to 2 million vehicles per year. That's a huge amount of vehicles. Another factor in all this is big data. If you look at Waymo, what they're doing with their full self-driving cars, if you look at Uber, what they're doing, and they've all been doing testing. Some have been more successful, some claim, than Tesla in terms of what they've been doing. Well, the problem with most of their systems is that they are geofenced. Geofence means that they only have a certain geographic area they can work in, where they've done high definition mapping and, I don't know, testing, and they feel confident that they can drive in these areas, and they can. They do a good job. They can make left turns, they can go around traffic circles, they can do all these other kinds of things, which, by the way, Tesla can now do. They couldn't do this in the past, but I just got another software update and it's better than ever. Each software update brings new capabilities. For instance, my car couldn't even change lanes on its own on the highway when I got it in 2017 March, but eventually they added that. It didn't even have rain sensing wipers, but eventually they added that. These are all software iterations and improvements that are based on analyzing all this data that they're soaking in with these cameras. And if you don't know, I've got plenty of videos in this too. There's 3 cameras. If you look at this area of the windshield above where the rear view mirror is, there's 3 cameras pointing forward, one straight, one off left, one off right. And I told you about the fender cameras, or sorry, the between the wheel wells and the front doors. That's 2 more, one on each side. That's 5. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then on the B pillar, if you look at the B pillar, that's the pillar on your car between the front door and the back door, as cameras that are facing forward, because the ones on the behind the front wheels are facing backward. So that's 4 on the sides plus 3 in the front. That's 8, and then 1 rear facing back camera. They all overlap. You get 360 degrees of data. All this data is constantly being pumped back and forth to the neural network, wherever that is in the cloud, that Tesla can analyze all this stuff. And of course, they know what's wrong with your car too. Your cars will soon, by the way, be able to drive themselves in to get repairs. And I'm trying to tell you all this because if you combine all this with the fact that you know that you almost never use your car, hardly any of the hours of the day are, it's very, very inefficient use of a ton of resources that were required to produce that car. Like I said, if you could get a very inexpensive, reliable, no problem method of driving, or someone picking you up, you wouldn't have to drive. You get in the front seat. This is what you see. No steering wheel. And by the way, 3 and Y, they have a little bit different layout, but they do. If you look at the 3 and Y, it's so minimalistic, even more so than this. They have a way that you can remove the steering wheel. I think Elon and Tesla have said that from the very beginning. So I don't know about S and X. Maybe they'll come up with something. Who knows? So when you put all this together, what you have here with all these systems is an appreciating asset. Now, I can kind of compare this to real estate, because real estate is really just a bundle of rights that you buy when you buy some real estate, but it generally goes up in value. Am I right? Unless you buy at the peak of the market, and even still, if you hold it for another 10, 20 years, as we've seen since there was a crash in 2000 or 1989, there was a crash in 2006. There was another, we have recovered from these things. Your car, if you bought a new car, unless it turned into a collector's item like a Tesla Roadster or something like that, you never recovered that. That just went down, 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 down. You just lost huge amounts of money for something that sat around and did nothing most of the time it was around. So this is basically a more efficient allocation of assets or resources on every level is what this is. I know people complain and say, like, this is bad for the environment, but people even say cobalt. Cobalt's bad. Tesla has cobalt. What are you doing? Well, Tesla has a plan. I have a video on that too. Most Teslas, more than 50%, already have cobalt-free lithium iron phosphate, I believe, batteries, something like that. There's these new cattle batteries that are coming out as well, CATL from China. They probably will be announced with the Model 3 refresh. That's just my guess anyway. But the bottom line is that Tesla has a plan to get rid of all these things and address everyone's concerns. And, of course, when you start up a Tesla, how much emissions come out of it? Almost none. Of course, there are none, really. But it's best to charge with solar panels if you can. I think we all know that. And of course, we're moving towards that. Tesla is leading the way. So I think that the major paradigm shift away from ICE vehicles, because I know there's still some holdouts, is going to be when anyone and everyone can pick up their phone and call their car, and it's going to be inexpensive. And then people will realize, well, I can own these cars. These are appreciating assets. It's like a service that I have. And actually, they're pretty inexpensive right now. I'd say it's a pretty good time, to buy an appreciating asset from Tesla. If this is what you want to do, is get into another business. It's a side hustle, basically, is having a car, and you don't have to do anything. Just keep this in mind. In a traditional business like Turo, where you have cars, you have a lot of work to do looking over these cars, and the cars cannot drive themselves. There's all kinds of logistical issues with that. With a system like this, Tesla is going to be controlling the whole thing. They've already recently integrated warning systems into the app. So where, like, I got a recent warning saying that my air conditioning wasn't working well and I needed to, I couldn't supercharge at the highest speed. Well, I opened up the app to schedule a service. It already has that there. So the next step is, it's just going to do this automatically. It's going to do it at a time when people are not using their cars, right? Like in the middle of the night, like at 2 o'clock in the morning, it'll drive itself over to the Tesla service center, get fixed, come back, or keep working. Whenever you can work, it'll work. Also, going out in the city on the weekends will be so easy, because all you'll have to do is just drive your car, have your car drive you down, drop you off, and it won't need to park anywhere. It'll just go out earning you money the whole time. Can you imagine this? Hopefully you can. I see all of society changing their opinion on this. A few years ago, when I made videos like this, people were just like, this is ridiculous. What are you talking about? Elon's a liar, basically. Okay. But I think as time goes on, I know no one's ever done this before, and that's Elon's excuse for everything, but it will happen. All the systems are in place. Tesla has millions of vehicles on the road with the systems of basically full self-driving level 5 capable hardware that connects to the internet and a neural network on literally almost every car that they have, except for cars that were built before 2016, and it wasn't that many. Every day that goes by, that percentage of Teslas is getting lower, lower, and lower. So let me know what you think in the comments about all this stuff. Let me know if you're excited about it, okay? Because I'm excited about it. I mean, I think that we're entering a new era. It's another paradigm shift of the way we approach things. And if you look at cars, I mean, one of the things I really just don't like so much is people who are claiming how internal combustion engine vehicles are still what everyone should be doing, when the reality is that paradigm already began shifting in October of 2016. It's silly to ignore what's going on, because that is the future. That is the way that we do the least damage to the environment. And by the way, all forms of travel damage the environment. Even walking around damages the environment. So what you need to do is we all know that we've done some pretty bad things over the years. I mean, heck, just pulling crude oil out of the ground does damage in so many ways. There's so many accidents that happen, and even if they don't happen, every gas station just smells horrible when you drive by, or you just open your windows. We all know that this stuff is polluting the air. So let's get a plan together, and that's what this is. Tesla has a plan to do all this. Now, what's this going to do to their stock value? Who knows? It's constantly changing, but I do think that I think they've got the right idea. There's going to be a lot of battles going on with like Waymo and Uber and things like that. But I also think that, as Elon has said years ago, that people who are relying on the LiDAR technology like they've got on theirs rather than pure vision are doing it wrong, basically. And they're going to find out. And there's a reason why they're geofencing their areas right now. People who are using the LiDAR technology. If you don't know what LiDAR is, it's a really bulky, spinning type of a radar that you usually have to mount on the roof. Sometimes they have one, sometimes they have three. I mean, it does provide great information, but so do your eyes. I mean, think about this. You're human. Unless you know you're a bad driver, you're a really good driver. You do the best that you can. And you're doing this with only two eyes and some mirrors. All right. Imagine, as a computer, you have access to overlapping cameras that go 360 degrees of all the areas around your car, and they're overlapping, so you're not missing anything. And all that information is going to you instantly. As an example of this, I don't even have full self-driving. I don't have level 5. I have the full self-driving beta. The other day I was turning and I changed lanes in my Tesla. And it's you never want to do a lane change in a Tesla with AP2 or above manually, because if you do, you're assuming that there's no one in your blind spot or all this other stuff that could go wrong. Someone can come out of nowhere, just come out of nowhere, cross over 2 lanes of traffic and run into you. And it could happen so fast that you don't even have any time to react to it. Well, my Tesla has all these cameras, so it's constantly watching. It's showing on the screen. I can see what it sees. The amount of information it sees is ridiculous these days. It's so thorough. And I know that Denise was complaining. She's like, Mike, are you seeing this car? Because this car 2 lanes over. I'm like, don't worry about it. I locked the signal in. My car is going to make that turn over one more lane as soon as it's safe. And if it becomes not safe, it'll jerk the wheel over. And sure enough, I was watching it. I see what it saw, and everything was good. That's the way you want to be. That's the way you feel. I know it's difficult for people to trust that this is the correct thing to do, but I can assure you, the computers never take breaks. All right, they're always watching. They're analyzing more information than we are. It's only a matter of time. So I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear, what you think of other auto manufacturers. I've said for years now that There's going to be a number of legacy auto manufacturers, ICE, internal combustion engine manufacturers that are going to go bankrupt. I just don't see how they can survive. They have rested on their laurels for too long. I saw this in the 80s when the Japanese came in and just saw a big hole in the market and just filled it. And now it seems like the Japanese, instead of being a laughing stock like they were, are now like sought after, until Tesla came along, because Toyota, which was the world leader in automobiles, I don't know, they just didn't want to do anything with full battery electric, BEV, battery electric vehicles. They were really more concerned about their hybrids or their hydrogen powered cars. And hydrogen is kind of like a type of a hybrid system. It's electrically driven, but it's powered by hydrogen instead of an internal combustion engine. At least that's how they produce the electricity. But it remains to be seen. I know there's so much FUD out there: fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Just let us know in the comments, and please join us too in our newest group, which is a couple of years old now. It's called Tesla High Mileage Club. If you look down below, it's the first link, TeslaHighMileageClub.com. Just go to TeslaHighMileageClub.com and join us there. So I look forward to a future. I hope you found this valuable with the history of robo-taxi, full self-driving. I know Elon promised that it was gonna, I don't know if he promised, I don't know which word you want to use, but it was supposed to work. I had a bet with my friend Hassan like 2.5 years ago. He said it was going to happen. I think it was, which was the end of 2021, right? Something like that. Yeah. No, actually that was 1.5 years ago, but I think it was the end of 2020 that he said it was going to happen, and it never happened. Anyway, it's okay. You see the progress. Hopefully you've learned something from watching this video. Hopefully it's enlightened you. It's been valuable for you. If it is, please give me a like, a thumbs up. It really does help with the algorithm in getting this information out to people. And this, I'm just your average person. Yeah, I mean, I do talk about the digital nomad lifestyle, and Tesla and even Starlink has been a huge factor in moving all that stuff forward, which is awesome. But the bigger thing is that I think that Tesla, and I've thought this for years, has this robotaxi, autonomous driving, rideshare service market cornered. All right. I don't see how anyone's going to catch up. So much of this is about keeping costs low. And if you bought a Tesla or placed an order for one recently, and many people have, it's because you can't believe what kind of a deal. You can't believe what you're getting for the money, because Tesla has done an amazing job of cutting costs. And that's all that people care about. We want to do the least damage to everything. And of course, that least damage to everything is not owning your own vehicle. Okay? Not. If you own your own vehicle and you're hardly ever driving it, there's way too much resources dedicated to your life that don't need to be there. So, you know, I'm looking forward to the future. It's going to be a great one. I'm excited. I hope you are too. And I think that's about all I have to say. I'm trying to think if I forgot anything else. If I did, I'll make a follow-up video. But the only question right now is, will these be appreciating assets, these Teslas? And when are we going to have full level 5, full autonomous robo-taxi service? Let me know in the comments when you think that's going to happen. I look forward to reading them. We'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.